Classified. Classified. Traffic High Command Archives Commander's Psychological Evaluation Report. Warning, contents may induce existential crisis. Commander's Log. Supplemental Report. Sol 3 Species Analysis. Classification. Nightmare Fuel Recommendation. Avoid at all costs. High Command, I know my previous logs about humans seemed unhinged. You probably thought I'd suffered some kind of psychological break after our disastrous first contact mission. I assure you, my mental faculties remain intact. If anything, they've been sharpened by terror. You want to know how humans survived long enough to develop interstellar travel? I've figured it out. They weaponized insanity. Let me explain, because this goes far beyond their ability to turn plasma weapons into cooking devices or their disturbing habit of keeping predators as pets. This is about something much more fundamental and infinitely more terrifying. Among our people, stubbornness is a genetic defect. We've seen it destroy colonies, end bloodlines, and reduce brilliant minds to babbling wrecks. The last recorded case involved a Treffolk who spent 40 years trying to prove that mathematics was just an opinion. He died alone, surrounded by incomprehensible equations, still muttering about showing the university professors who was right. Humans have built their entire civilization on this exact pathology. During my extended observation period, I watched a human child spend an entire solar cycle trying to open a food container. Not because she was hungry, she had access to other sustenance. Not because the contents were valuable, it was common preserved fruit. She did it because the container had defeated her initially and she took this personally. 4 hours. 4 hours of a developing mind focused on nothing but conquering an inanimate object through pure force of will. When she finally succeeded, her caretakers celebrated this as determination and character building. They were proud that she had wasted an entire day on stubborn refusal to seek help or use appropriate tools. This wasn't an anomaly, this was training. Their technological advancement follows the same pattern, but on a species-wide scale. When humans encountered problems that should have taken reasonable minds millennia to solve, they simply refused to accept limitations. They wanted to fly, so they observed creatures with wings for a brief period, then decided to build metal tubes filled with controlled explosions and force them into the sky through sheer indignation. Their first attempts killed hundreds. Did they take this as evidence that perhaps they weren't meant to leave the ground? They built bigger, more explosive tubes and climbed inside them anyway. Now they traveled between stars in vessels that shouldn't exist, powered by contained stellar fusion, because they were too stubborn to accept that space travel was impossible for ground-dwelling mammals. But here's what makes this truly nightmarish. If stubbornness is their engine, spite is their fuel. I observed a human scientist named Sophia, who dedicated her entire career to proving faster-than-light communication possible. Not because her species needed it, they had perfectly adequate slower methods. Not because she was passionate about physics, she actually hated mathematics. She pursued this research for 30 years because a professor had once told her that girls aren't good at theoretical science. The professor had been dead for 2 decades. Sophia continued working anyway, driven by pure spite toward a corpse. She succeeded. Humans now have instantaneous communication across impossible distances because one individual refused to let an insult die with the person who delivered it. This pattern repeats throughout their entire history. Every breakthrough follows the same template. Encounter impossible problem, be told it can't be done, become personally offended by this limitation, refuse to acknowledge reality, then succeed anyway through weaponized stubbornness. They eliminated diseases not through careful research, but because they were angry that microscopic organisms dared to harm them. They explored hostile environments by rejecting the concept that some places were too dangerous for their fragile biology. They split the atom because they were insulted by matter's refusal to cooperate. They're currently working on defeating death itself because they are apparently annoyed that mortality exists. What makes this absolutely terrifying is that humans don't recognize these as psychological disorders. They celebrate them. Their entertainment media glorifies individuals who succeed through stubborn refusal to accept defeat. They teach their offspring that persistence in the face of impossible odds is virtuous. They've created an entire cultural mythology around converting negative emotions into positive outcomes. During my final week of observation, I made the catastrophic error of testing this theory. I mentioned to a human engineer that faster-than-light travel was physically impossible, according to every known law of physics. He looked at me with that distinctive human expression, the one that means they're about to personally assault the fundamental forces of the universe, and said, "Watch me. He's been working on it for 6 weeks now." His research notes suggest he's not trying to solve the problem through conventional physics. He appears to be developing new mathematics specifically to make the universe feel bad about having speed limits. His equations include annotations like stupid relativity and Einstein was probably wrong anyway. The preliminary results are concerning. He's not just challenging established science, he's taking it personally. I've been forced to reconsider everything we know about evolution and survival. We assumed that negative traits were selected against because they hindered species development. Humans prove that any characteristic can become adaptive if you're stubborn enough about it. They've created impossible technology, survived in environments that should have killed them, and built a thriving civilization powered by controlled chaos. All because they refuse to acknowledge their limitations. Humans didn't evolve to dominate their planet through superior intelligence or physical capability. They became the apex species by getting personally offended at every obstacle and then refusing to let the universe win. They've turned character flaws into superpowers and mental illness into evolutionary advantages. Among civilized races, stubbornness leads to exile and spite leads to destruction. Among humans, these traits lead to miracles. The most disturbing realization is that the universe appears to be enabling this behavior. Reality itself seems to bend around human stubbornness, as if the fundamental forces of physics are too intimidated to tell them no permanently. My recommendation to High Command remains unchanged. Never engage humans directly. More importantly, never tell them something is impossible. They'll interpret it as a personal challenge and succeed specifically to prove you wrong. The universe is apparently complicit in this behavior. I'm requesting immediate transfer to the Department of Xenological Threats. Someone needs to classify humans as a cosmic hazard before they decide that the laws of physics have personally insulted them and begin rewriting reality out of spite. They've already weaponized plasma into cooking devices and turned mathematics into a personal vendetta. What happens when they discover something that really annoys them? I fear we're about to find out. End log, Commander. Redact. Trefl Expeditionary Forces currently in protective custody, URG Agent Vandam. The human engineer has successfully demonstrated faster-than-light travel. His test message reads, "Thanks for saying it was impossible, made this way more satisfying." He's named his breakthrough the Spite Drive. High Command is evacuating the entire sector. The humans are asking if we want to see what else they can do when properly motivated. We do not. Many thanks to my channel members and Pathfinders. You all make these videos possible. Thank you for listening to this story. I hope you enjoyed it. Be sure to leave this video a like and subscribe if you want to see more stuff like this. Video shares, memberships, and super thanks help the channel grow as well, so feel free to partner with this channel in that way as we grow. With that all said, thank you again for listening to the story, and thank you for your time. On the left side of your screen are some videos I think you might be interested in. I hope to see you in the next one.